Wow, this beat is so good.
I love this beat.
Who made this?
Albums.
Oh, here we go.
Still matter. Like books and black lives, albums still matter. Tonight and always.
Welcome to the Link Up Listening Party with Jordan and N.O.R.E 5000.
Bow, 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 bow. Hey.
Hit the horns for your beat, bro.
Come on now. Welcome to the Link Up Listening Party. It's the podcast where we compare two seemingly different albums and we discuss the threads and themes that bring them together. I am the illustrious Jordan Alamat of 93X.
I love that. You're illustrious today. Let's go, man.
I'm feeling it.
The self-confidence. I'm not even on your level right now, man. I gotta have some more coffee before I can be illustrious, you know?
Join me. My counterpart is the majestic, the Purple Mountain Majesty, the Appalachian Mountain, the Rocky Mountain Augie 5000. He is a mountain of just positivity and dopeness.
The Purple Mountain Majesty. That's okay. That's going in my Twitter bio, by the way. It's going there. What's up,
the
Jordan?
best Crayola dude. I want to talk about Purple Mountain Majesty. Obviously, it's the best Crayola crayon name. Purple Mountain Majesty. That goes so hard.
I didn't even know it was you just put me on. I had no idea that this was a crayon name. So cheers to that.
I'd be out here studying.
Was that in the 64 pack? Because I was too poor to get the 64 pack. So
my second grade teacher, Miss Roy, she had the 64 pack. She had a couple that we could use. So big ups to Miss Roy.
I was the 24 pack kid. You know what I mean? Or 22 or whatever. Sometimes
24
12.
still went hard though.
It was cool. We got the sepia.
At least it was more than 8.
We got the burnt sienna. You know what I mean? That's the most memorable crayon color to me for some reason.
An IG filter before IG filters were a thing. Like the sepia type color. Today we're on the run. Our albums are running away. Augustine.
Right.
I picked probably our most legendary and historic album we've ever covered, Bruce Springsteen's Born to Run.
Woo-hoo-hoo. And I picked Noreaga's I might be one of the first people to say this, but classic album. I don't think it gets the recognition that it deserves. It's Neighbors on the Run Eating is the title, but he ended up changing his stage name to that N.O.R.E, which is the acronym. Absolute fantastic, brilliant album. Cheers to these people.
Cheers. I think Noreaga's gotten his flowers in the initial hip-hop journalism circles as a classic album. I think people have been able to recognize that. I think a lot of that is due to Drink Champs and like the second life his career has gotten as a podcast host.
Yeah. I don't know. Do I like him as a podcast host and journalist or a rapper better? I really don't know because I love both of those iterations of our man Victor Santiago Jr.
I like him better as a podcast host because I think he can be more unfiltered and you can't. How many opinions can you really weave into a rap album? You know, I do appreciate that he's parallel in that between podcasting and rapping, that he always keeps it real. Remember last episode we talked about how hip hop is keeping it real.
Oh,
that's
he
the
definitely
foundation
is.
of just. Yeah, he keeps it super duper real, and I think that's just. I think most rappers, or at least the realest of the real, are better podcast hosts than rappers all the time because they can just keep it so real on all topics. Because how could you weave in a take about Ellen into a rap song? You can't, but on a podcast you can just rip about Ellen.
You could do problem. It. You could make that happen. You could rip on Ellen in a rap song somehow, some way. You could make it happen. I mean,
hey,
like
you know
Ellen.
me, certified felon. I'm mean to my employees. Call me Ellen.
Bam. Damn. Yo, where's the air horn? Do I got an air horn? Where's my air horn? Oh man, I don't got an air horn. Oops. Yeah, well, that's for you, sir. That was for the bars. The buzzer was for me.
Thank you,
Jordan.
Thank you. All right, should we synopsize?
Yeah, let's give out the hard facts of the album. Let's paint the picture of the eras of which they were created and put out, because they're two wildly different eras. Noreaga dropped this album in 1998, and this was the follow-up to a hood classic, Capone and Noreaga's The War Report. And Capone, he ended up going to jail, and I forgot the reason why he was in prison, but he was incarcerated, and Noreaga was forced to go solo. This wasn't something that he wanted to do on his own. This was something that just happened. He just was like, well, I'm going to make an album because my guy's in jail. And
It's kind of like if you went to jail or I went to jail and then we had to continue the podcast. Like, I guess I got to start a solo podcast.
yeah, and I don't know how well I would do without you here, Jordan. But Noreaga knocked it out the absolute park, man. This was released July 7th, 1998, and legendary producers on this from the Trackmasters to LES. Also, DJ Clue has production credits on this, and legendary, even especially at the time, Marley Marl. He produced on this album.
Mm-hmm.
Dame Grease, who is known for producing DMX It's Dark and Hell is Hot, which came out like a couple of months before this album. He produced on there. We got production from a extremely young Swiss Beats and also a very young Neptunes on this album. So good.
We love a Neptune song on this podcast.
Yes. We're two Neptune stands, by the way, that happen to do a podcast and we'll continue in talking about this album, Jordan. What I love most about this album, or one of the things I love, is that it has all of the late 90s East Coast album tropes. Okay. You have the skits, the gratuitous sex skits for almost no reason, that just kind of like, if you're listening to it like in your car and somebody pulls up next to you and hears groans and moans and slurps, they're like, what are you listening to? That was featured in this album. When you were recapping, where were you when you heard this?
I was doing dishes per usual, and I was like, did I leave a tab open?
And
whoa!
I know it almost doesn't even make any sense. Until you get halfway through the next song, and then you realize that song's about head, but that song starts off with like, we're at war, and you're like, wait, why was there a sex skit leading into this? But okay, so that's one of the tropes. It also had the forced club banger that you'll hear in a lot of late 90s East Coast rap albums. This one specifically was Fiesta with Kid Capri on there, which actually sounds good. Like, so a lot of these forced club banging songs are like, I don't know, like the rapper sounds lazy. He's like, I kind of had to do this to satisfy the record label, or I think maybe people will like it, and it just sounds lazy. But with Kid Capri, N.O.R.E had a goal, and he was like, we're going to attain this goal. We're going to make a club banger with this. Also, it had the forced song that was For the Ladies, which The Way We Live, featuring Chico DeBarge on this one. Very soft, sensitive song that was forced by the label, but he made it happen, and he made it Noreaga.
I do love the East Coast forced ladies anthem, kind of like 21 Questions for the early 2000s equivalent.
Yep.
I do appreciate it because there's something I like. I like to see that side of those artists because they get romantic bars off, and I think it's really fun to see, or it's fun to hear those type of rough and gruff, hard deliveries over these soft instrumentals about a soft topic. I think it's really interesting.
Mm-hmm. And if you listen to enough like 97 through like 2002 albums, you're gonna hear like one of those songs from an East Coast artist. It just had to be. It was just a thing. Also, another trope, East Coast rap album trope, was the rappers with Italian names on this one. And this rapper, because people had like this weird fixation with mob movies, like mafia movies. At this time, the firm's identity was all centered around like Italian mob movies, and ended up being like great and a disaster at the same time. But on this album, you had a rapper named Mussolini, which of all names you could have chose, a fascist dictator.
You don't want that one.
You didn't want that one, bro.
You don't want that.
Where's Mussolini now? I have no idea. I didn't even research that. I was like, I don't need to know where Mussolini is.
Did he die?
Rapper Mussolini. I don't know. I have no idea.
Oh, I meant Benito Mussolini. I'm like, no, that dude's dead.
Yeah, that was. There was a. Did you see the tweet about Mussolini from the Fonz? What's his real name? I can't remember his real name, but it happened.
What's the Fonz's name? Henry Winkler.
Henry Winkler. He tweeted the day of the insurrection on January 6th. He said Trump is just like Mussolini, and hopefully he goes out the same way. So
that's out of pocket.
It was absolutely wild, and somehow we ended up in an era where the Fonz calls for the death of the president of the United States. And then the final East Coast.
What a sentence! Sorry, go on.
The final trope, the East Coast rap album trope that this had was the posse cut. And you could hear posse cuts on a lot of great East Coast rap albums. And this one had a fantastic one, leads you straight into the album, banned from TV. It's got Big Pun on there. It's got The Locks. It's got Nature and Noreaga with the final verse, and Cameron too, we can't forget. Brilliant song. And that was produced by Swiss Beats.
Here's the thing. I don't like the posse cut. But I do appreciate. I think that's probably a top 5 posse cut song. Whoa, come on. Because there's always like 2, maybe there's like 2 fire verses and there's like 5 terrible ones. And I just don't want to suffer through it because I feel like the ones that suck are like they're in a try hard mentality and I just can't handle it.
Okay. Well, you got to give me. I'm not going to put you on the spot and give me an example of a bad posse cut right now. But at some point, you got to at least tweet me a list of bad ones, and then or at least force verses, and then I might agree with you.
You know what it is? I think the double XL or like ciphers. I think ciphers ruined it for me. So I falsely equate posse cuts with ciphers. And ever since, who's the Triple X guy? The Triple X guy did like his laying on the ground demon double XL free like freshman rap. I was like, oh, these are just all bad now.
XXX Tentacion. That was legendary in its own weird way. Not to say that I liked it, but I mean, there are people that are ages 16 to 22 somewhere that thought that was brilliant.
You know what it is? I think it was all like the problematic Odd Future fans we discussed in the last episode were like, yes, it's back. Yes, my sound is back. All the kids in suburban Minnesota are like, yes, let's go. My type of rap is back. Like, this is so hard. It's like, bro, yeah.
Jordan, you gotta
maybe you're right.
But you gotta paint the picture now of this one's a legend. You can honestly say unequivocally that this is a legendary album. By a legendary artist. Yes. This man's an American legend, by the way. Like, let's not pull any punches. Let's not cap here. Bruce Springsteen is a legend.
He is a legend, and to calm your concerns about how I'm gonna tell him this story, we will have noted Bruce Springsteen fan and radio personality Dana Wessel joining the pod, and he can shed some light on what's going on with this album. But here we go. Born to Run is the 3rd studio album from America's classic rock zaddy, Bruce Springsteen, released on August 25th, 1975. Springsteen hit the studio to work on it in May 1974. He was putting in work on this one. He had received a massive budget for the album as it was his last chance to become a commercially viable artist. This man's back was against the wall, and he said, get off me. I'm doing it. Because at the time, in the early 70s, he was like an indie darling with no commercial success. He was kind of like, I'm trying to think of an equivalent, Big Thief. If you listen to The Current a lot, you know who Big Thief is. Local Angle, the lead singer of Big Thief, I think is from Duluth. So what's up?
Oh, what's up?
The strategies Bruce employed to be commercially viable were to strive for a wall of sound production, right? We're talking loud drums, anthemic pianos, evocative horn sections, etc., and to limit these specific references to New Jersey so that more people could relate to it. He's like, no, I can't be talking about New Jersey all the time. So,
but there definitely was a lot though.
Let's paint with. Yeah, you could but he calmed down, which is saying how much. I haven't listened to Bruce's first 2 albums. How much is he talking about New Jersey if this was toning it down?
Right, exactly.
Bruce also has a cool little bar about his artistic growth on this album, saying that Born to Run was the album where he left behind his adolescent definitions of love and freedom. This is our first taste of adult Bruce, and boy, was it delicious.
I love it.
This little collection of ditties sold 6 million copies and peaked at number 3 on the Billboard 200. It's categorically considered to be the album that thrust Bruce into the mainstream, like we talked about. And almost 50 years later, it's considered to be one of the best albums of all time, both by critics and people alive at the time. There was a 30th anniversary edition that came out like with the box set and all that in 2005. So I imagine we'll get one for the 50th anniversary here in 2025, which is also mind blowing to realize that this album is about to be 50 years old.
That's wild. So in a box set, what would you get with this? Like, I mean, of course you're going to get the album, and like, what would you get?
You get some demos, and you got 2 DVDs of like live performances and stuff, which for a Bruce show, bro, get me a Bruce Springsteen IMAX special. I want like the drones flying around the band, flying like like in between his arm and his guitar. I want to see like a 65-year-old guy crying to Born to Run. I need it. Augie, it's time for spicy critics time.
I love it.
Are you ready for spice? So again, there's lots of commercial acclaim and critical acclaim for this, but let's talk about Robert Christgau of The Village Voice, shall we?
Yes.
He was very Minnesota passive aggressive on this one. He applauded Bruce's ability to turn American myths into songs and does it well, right? Which is Bruce's thing. Is talking about the the mythology of America. Robert says, despite his ability to be hysterical and dive into the quote pseudo tragic beautiful loser fatalism, Bruce may as well turn out to be one of those rare self-conscious primitives who gets away with it.
What? You know what? He hit it on the nail a little bit, but it's still like, what? He called him a primitive?
Yeah.
Dude, what?
Yes, and also music journalists, your glory days are far behind you. I need more people calling artists pseudo-tragic, beautiful loser fatalists and self-conscious primitives who get away with it. I think it just really... It speaks like the brooding nature of the American myth. I think it all ties into Bruce's artistic aura.
So wait, I just have to wrap my brain around this. So basically he called him an ape that can think, more or less. And that just blows my mind. Like, just to think like, who does this person think he is? What was this guy's name again from The Village Voice?
Robert Christgau.
See, we're going to Google this a little later and find out if he's still alive or not. And if he's dead, that's karma, buddy.
Well, I mean, I kind of see it because, you know, I think this is indicative of all of Bruce's artistry and his lyrics. Like, it's talking about America and like these American myths, right? You're driving down the desert highway to a beach with some girl on your arm, but he'll say these things and the next line will be a really thoughtful and provocative, like, wait a minute, you know, Born in the USA is another Born Bruce song. Is all about imperialism. You know what I mean? And so it's like Bruce can take these narratives of the American myths and flip them as to what's actually happening. In 75, that's a wild thing to discuss in music, and Bruce hits on it a lot. It's really, he's interrogating the American myths and the American dreams, and it's kind of like the jock that all of a sudden, you know, like when you go on Facebook and you're like, oh, this jock from high school is probably going to say something racist, but it's kind of like, oh, that's thought out. It's like Bruce is the jock that's having like read a book.
Yo, I had a QAnon thing I was going to say, but I'm just going to leave that alone. Yeah, that jock is probably QAnon now. But anyways.
You know, I saw a guy, like this hockey just, I'm trying to think of a word. Just a drone, just a hockey drone. He was doing the chew tobacco in 10th grade. He always had a chaw in, and he had the leather jacket with the arms filled up. And I was like, oh, this guy's probably like, you know, a Trumpy guy. And then he posted a really well thought out defense of like marriage equality and police brutality. I'm like, where did this? I'm very surprised and I love it, but where did this come from? Did you stop playing hockey long enough that your brain like reset itself?
Damn. You know what? This is a great example of not to judge a book by their cover. And you know what? I just want to relate that. I want to relate that to Noreaga. He's definitely one of those guys that you can't judge him by the cover either. Like that's the first similarity here. Yeah,
that's a good one. As far as other similarities between the album, before Dana comes on, I want to have Dana on for 5 fun facts.
Okay.
So let's kill 5 minutes here with my comparisons between the albums. So Bruce is interrogating the American dream and realizing how it is kind of a sham. And I think a white man in the 70s saying that is pretty unheard of at the time. I think it's a really welcome analysis and interrogation of these ideas. Whereas Noreaga is talking about America and the American dream from a totally different side of the coin. And they're both converging on the same points.
Yep.
Did you hear that, Augie?
I heard that a lot. And you know what? Especially listening to the Born to Run song, like she's talking about basically like escaping with a girl and we're tramps and you know what I'm saying? And N.O.R.E's basically saying the same thing in one of the intro, or not the intro track, but the track after the intro track, where he's saying, I grew up as a regular thug, sold drugs. And it's just like, they're basically like, they can relate to each other on that level, right? Like a tramp, and a tramp meaning like somebody from the streets, not like a tramp like your mom. You know what I'm saying? That's for
Yeah.
That was my Your Mama joke, by the way.
Oh,
Whoa,
I liked it. Are we getting? Well, is Dana here?
Dana's here.
What up,
Hey!
Dana.
Wow.
I love
Hello,
the Bruce
Dana.
Born to Run mask.
I even got a Born to Run mask on, boys. I got dressed up for the occasion.
Amazing.
Dana Wessel joins the podcast. Hit. Do we have a ding or something? We need more.
Hold on. He's going to get the laser. Oops, I'm sorry. That's the buzzer.
No, that's
No. He's getting the laser.
buzzer.
This is for Dana. 1, 2, 3.
Yeah. All right, Dana. So you joined at a wonderful time. We were talking about how Bruce Springsteen, basically starting with Born to Run, was interrogating the mythology of America and how he interrogates the whole "we're gonna drive away with a hot girl on my arm. I'm an American man," and how that compares to Noreaga's experience in America on the opposite side of the coin, as like
But
a
it's kind of
thug
like
and
they
as a
had
gangster.
very different upbringings.
It's kind of
Yeah,
the same side, though.
But
Because they both grew up poor. You know what I mean? And they're both like trying to live the American dream. They just grew up. One grew up in Queens and the other one grew up in New Jersey. And one was from a white neighborhood and one was from a black neighborhood. So, I mean,
that's a big difference. Shall we move on to 5 fun facts? Augie and
do it.
Dana.
Let's
Yes.
do it. Let's do some fun facts. Fun facts are the best kind of facts because they're fun.
They are fun. I missed Fun Fact Friday, Dana.
Fun
by the
Fact
way.
Friday was great. Yeah, lay us out some fun facts, Jordan.
Well, I want you to contribute if I mischaracterize any of these, or if I get the story wrong.
I'll happily correct you.
Thank you, Dana. So number one of 5 fun facts on Bruce Springsteen's Born to Run is the OG LP sequencing adopted the 4 corners approach. As the songs beginning each side were uplifting odes to escape, while the songs ending each side were sad, epic loss songs of loss, betrayal, and defeat. So you can hear that throughout the album. It's like happy, sad, and it makes for quite a dynamic listen.
On both sides, yeah, because side 1 ends with Backstreets, and then of course the closing song of the whole album, Jungle Land. You know, the sad, the long Clarence Clemens classic saxophone solo and stuff, and just that, you know, laying dead on the street and stuff. It's definitely those ups and downs throughout the entire album, Jordan.
That was a crazy 40 minutes. I do love just the 8-song album, and I could listen to it numerous times. It's really well. I think it's just the sequencing of it. It's like a roller coaster. I was riding the wild thing while listening, and I enjoyed it.
8-song album, and one of them is 9 minutes long. How about that?
that was a nice little like. Oh, we're gonna.
This one's still going, huh?
I know. I looked down at my phone. I'm like, whoa, okay, here we go.
The 9-minute rock song is the same as like the Posse cut. It's always like 25% too long. I could have done with 6.5 minutes of this. Number 2, it took Bruce 6 months to perfect Born to Run. He had versions with a string section variant, a backing chorus, etc. There's probably a DJ Premier scratch version somewhere. Who knows?
No, that's completely true. I heard you mention earlier, Jordan, how this was kind of like his, the third record on his deal. And the first 2 were, 5 stars, Rolling Stone, everybody loves it, Jersey loves it, but nobody picked up on it. And it was, like he sings in Thunder Road, one last chance to make it real. And it really was. And there's a documentary, you're talking about the 25th anniversary box set edition. It includes a 90-minute documentary about the making of the album, how the band base, they just locked themselves in a house. They lived together for like 6 months, and they realized like this was it. It was make or break time. And Bruce was just like a war general, perfecting everything. And like, no, another take. And they talk about like looking back on it, they're glad they did it. But at the time, like it was hell. They're recording this album.
Yeah.
They knocked it out of the park. Obviously, we're 3 dudes in our 30s talking about it in 2021. So they obviously did something right.
How dare you?
I'm
27.
Don't age him up. Don't age him up.
I don't want that. I know I have a mustache now, but don't stop it. I got to watch that documentary because I this is my first time listening to Bruce Springsteen. So with music that comes before me, I have a hard time fully submersing myself to it because music is such a reflection of the times. So I can't listen to it through the same lens. But doing this podcast, we did Pink Floyd, an unreleased episode that'll be out eventually, and then doing Bruce Springsteen. It was so fascinating to throw myself into this work. And Augie, in that podcast, you said that if I was young at this time, I could see why I'd hate everything. if I was 15 when Born to Run came out, I would shit on everything. It's so good. Like, how could you not love it's the epitome of that classic rock sound, the anthemic pianos going up and down, the keyboard, the horn section made me do the stank face numerous times. The drummer's in the pocket. Bruce is crooning these poems over the top of this half soul, half rock instrumentation. I'm like, oh my God, this is brilliant.
There's this one famous quote from Bruce where somebody actually said, he was like 23, I think, when he wrote all this Born to Run album. And someone was like, how were you that poetic and that, had such deep thoughts and stuff when you're 23? And he just kind of shrugged and said, like, I just wanted to make music that I wouldn't be embarrassed to play when I was 50.
That's a great take.
So I got a take, because you say that it's the epitome of the classic rock sound. So I came away from this with a different sense. And I know that like Bruce Springsteen is considered like classic rock, but here's something that you guys might be hearing for the first time. This is just me just listening to it from 2021 ears. I feel like Bruce Springsteen, he makes East Coast country music.
Ooh, go on.
Yeah, because you hear it and he's telling stories in this thing, just like country artists tell, at least the good country artists telling stories. And it's talking about American myths and Americana. That's another country trope. And the pianos don't sound rock to me. Something about piano music just doesn't sound super rock. It's not the classic rock sound, at least for my ears. So I'm listening to this and I'm trying to wrap my head around where it fits as far as like me putting a label on it. And yes, like it's a rock album. I'm not going to get it twisted, but I feel like he makes country music, like folk music for the East Coast.
I like it. I like that a lot.
Yeah, I do too. And because I've never been to the boardwalk. I've never been to New Jersey, but like when I hear songs like, Night and Backstreets and Thunder Road and stuff, like it almost like transports me to a place I've never been to, a time I wasn't born at. I think that's what great artists can do. They can kind of, no matter when you listen to it, they can take you to that place, even if it's in a different time, in a different era, and, like a part of the country or a world you've never been to. You know what I mean?
I feel it. Augie, you hit on the piano lines. Fun fact number 3, all of the songs were initially composed on piano, not guitar. If you look throughout the course of history, you'll start to notice that a lot of the artist's best or most interesting works are a result of pushing themselves with a new instrument or sound, a la Born to Run, 808s and Heartbreak, Arctic Monkeys, Tranquility Base, Hotel and Casino. So this is Bruce pushing himself with all 88 keys.
Tickling those ivories, that Bruce. He's a talented mother. He's a talented dude.
I want to get the Born to Run piano book and just learn some of those licks, because they sound so much fun but not too difficult, and that is the mark of, it's like they're like fun party tricks. Number 4, you guys know Jimmy Iovine, right? The record.
Of course.
During the recording of this album, he was the engineer and he would chew aluminum foil wrappers from sticks of gum to stay awake.
Gives you that electric feeling.
I hate that.
I wish I would have known that when I was doing morning radio. I would have been chomping on, rather than drinking coffee, I would have been chomping on gum wrappers.
I wonder what the health implications are of that, at least dental or like in your bloodstream. You can't be chewing those. Especially in the 70s.
He probably had metal fillings, and that's even worse.
Oh, and the grit. Oh, no.
Yeah.
All right. Number 5, Eric Miola, I think is how you pronounce his name. Eric Miola was the photographer who shot the album cover. He took nearly 600 photos during a 2-hour shoot. Bruce was only looking directly at the camera for 2 of those.
And not on the one that they ended up using.
Yes. So this bears in mind, or let's keep this in mind here. This is not the digital era. They're using film. So 600 shots over a 2 hours. Let's find the proportion. 2 divided by 600 or 1 divided by 300. Here we go.
It's expensive.
That is 0.003.
Yeah, that wasn't cheap. Did Columbia foot the bill for that or what? Because that's a lot of film back in 1975.
They must have, but I must say, during my time as a radio programmer, Columbia was the most artist-friendly record label, so I could see them footing the bill even in the 70s. It seems to be part of their MO and their legacy. And I'm not just saying that just because I applied for a job there recently.
Shout out to Columbia.
If anybody from Columbia is listening, or if anybody has any hookups.
What up to Lisa Sonkin? All right, Augie, go on. 5 fun facts about N.O.R.E. N.O.R.E. or N.O.R.E? It's N.O.R.E.
Well, N.O.R.E. It's N.O.R.E. I before we go there, I just want to give some observations. I want to bounce these off of you guys. Just observations I had from listening to Born to Run. This was my first time listening to Bruce Springsteen on purpose, by the way, just for full clarity.
Fair.
Yeah.
So here's some observations. Thunder Road hits. Actually, I listened to Born to Run, the song Born to Run, before I put the whole album on. And the first vibe that I got was that this was has a very large "we shorted a GameStop stocks" vibe to it. Because I feel like those boomer like stock industry guys, like this was the music that they grew up listening to, and they kind of still feel like, yeah, we're from the streets, you know what I'm saying? Blah blah blah. But meanwhile,
we made it. They're
trying to like tell Robin Hood, fuck these guys, stop the buys. You know what I'm saying? That's what I get from it. I don't know.
I feel it.
Yeah, no, there's definitely, if you ever have the chance to go to a Bruce Springsteen concert, you'll definitely see a lot of those Wall Street type dudes that are reliving their like glory days, pardon the pun, at a Bruce show of their youth for sure.
True.
The hypocrisy is stark.
Rusty rich white dudes.
Also, another observation that I had, and then I'll get to the fun facts for Noreaga. 10th Avenue Freeze Out, very very popular at Bruce Springsteen live shows. Like and I haven't been to one, but I've heard that this is one that he jams out and everybody goes crazy to. Is it me, or does this song sound like a Little Richard record?
It does. It does, and I had so much fun. The first time I listened to this album while doing my dishes was the first time I heard 10th Avenue Freeze Out, and I was like, this slaps unequivocally. I was having so much fun listening to it.
Yeah.
Fun fact about that song, 10th Avenue Freeze Out. So, like you said, Augie, it's very popular in the shows, and that's when he introduces everybody in the band. You know, the Mighty Max Weinberg, you know, the Professor Danny Federici, introduce everybody, and it takes like 15 minutes. But if you watch the Storytellers DVD of Bruce Springsteen, the VH1 Storytellers, remember that? They asked him like, what is a 10th Avenue Freeze Out? And Bruce was like, I have no fucking idea. It just kind of sounded cool.
That's genius. I respect it.
There's fan theories about this. Like people are out there trying to figure out what it is. I've went on a few websites and there's like people that are like trying to explain it, and they're like breaking it down by word and shit. And apparently, yeah, it's a thing among fans.
He's on the QAnon Bruce Springsteen boards breaking down the conspiracy theories.
But yeah,
I love it. I love the deep dive, Augie.
But yeah, if you at the end of the first verse, he sounds like he's doing a Little Richard impression. And then the way that the horns hit kind of like an old, 50s rock and roll type of vibe. And I wondered, I dug a little bit to try to figure out, did Little Richard say some shit like, because Little Richard, he'll speak his mind, right? Turns out that Little Richard officiated the guitarist's wedding. What's his name? Steve. I didn't write it down.
Van Zandt.
Stevie Van Zandt. Mm-hmm.
Yeah. Little Richard officiated his wedding. So all's good between Little Richard and Bruce Springsteen and the E Street Band. So cheers to that.
I would be bummed if Little Richard and Bruce had beef. I'd be like, oh, I wish they were friends. I don't know why. I'm not tied to either of these artists. I'm like, it'd be better. This would be a better world if like they were cool with each other.
The universe seems more like just intact and better than the fact that they liked each other.
Okay.
All right, Augie, 5 fun facts. Educate us.
I'm excited about this because this album is one of my favorites. I feel like it's a very underrated, quote unquote, classic hip hop album. So my first fun fact about this album, you hear Noreaga saying what on this album a lot, and Super Thug, that's what the hook is. The what. Turns out that's saying what is how Noreaga counts bars.
What?
Yeah.
What?
And so he was counting out bars on the song Super Thug because back then there wasn't a way for him to punch in on a new verse. So he's counting out the first verse, getting to the second verse, and they're recording him the whole time. Him doing that was the hook. Because he was like talking to Pharrell and Chad about doing the hook on this one. And he's like, I don't know what the hook's going to be. And he's like, don't worry about it. We already got the hook. And he's like, what? What are you talking about?
Wow. That's so sick.
Second fun fact, song banned from TV, Posse Cut, we talked about earlier. Big Pun, one of my favorite rappers. He actually bullied his way onto that song.
Classic pun. Classic pun.
So here's what happened. They were recording that song. Noreaga was recording his verse after Nature recorded his verse. And Pun just happened to be at the studio, heard them doing it. Noreaga got up to go take a shit, and Big Pun recorded a verse to it and snuck his way in on the track.
I love stories like that. I was going to tell a Kanye story, but we've been doing too many Kanye stories in the pod, so we're going to move on. But I love hearing stories of rappers like finessing their way onto songs, just because like
I didn't know I could bully my way onto posse tracks. I might just start showing up at studios and just trying to just bully my way in there, lay something down.
I imagine you rapping like what's that SNL skit with Ludacris and Andy Samberg where you're the Iceman?
It would not be pretty. It would not be pretty.
Number 3.
Third fun fact. Super Thug, of course, classic track produced by the Neptunes for N.O.R.E's album, was the first beat that somebody made with Noreaga in mind.
Wow.
Pharrell gave him a beat pack with 3 beats on it, and he couldn't remember if it was a tape or a CD. But Pharrell told him, hey, wait till you hear that third track until you get to Miami. And then when you get to Miami, put it on and then call me. He did. Blew him away. And it came with that intro where Pharrell's like, we got Manuel Noreaga on the phone. He's in the Philippines, when he's on the phone.
Yeah.
It came with all of that. And that was all of that stuff was on that track.
The more stories I hear about Pharrell and the Neptunes, like the what, like the hook thing, and now this, I wonder like how much genius is in that man's brain. Like he's been doing this for 20 years now of just making dope, unique stuff within his own realm and pulling the best out of other artists as well. It's truly mind-boggling. Not to stand the Neptunes and Pharrell again, but the more stories I hear, the more evident it is that they're just on a whole nother planet.
Neptune.
Planet.
Yeah. Oh, nice. Yeah. Also check ding for me.
Where's my ding button? Where my ding button at? Okay.
Boom. Thank you.
All right. Fourth fun fact. When they recorded Super Thug, of course, back in those days, you kind of want to play it for record label. Even now, you play it for record label people. You play it for DJs before you actually like put it on the album just to get some thoughts. And so they played it for some New York City DJs. They thought the song was too dark and that the only place that they could play it would be in the clubs, and it could potentially cause problems in the clubs. So what they did in order to make this marketable for people and palatable was when they shot the video, they shot it all during the daytime.
Oh, nice reverse psychology. But also, how could you hear Super Thug and be like, this is dark? Every third line is, we got Neptunes producing. Every third song is a reference to who the producers are. I don't know how that's dark.
Nobody knew who the producers were. This was like only the third song that they ever produced in their whole career.
I just love that. Like, hey, stop showing love and gratitude for your producer. It's too dark.
But yeah, and him saying what on there just sounded aggressive. You know what I'm saying? It was just it's an aggressive song. You can't deny that.
Well, of course, I guess, but also it's funny that in hindsight to be like a few years later, like Lil Jon was aggressively yelling all over every song in the club, and it was fine.
So, moving on to fun fact 5, I'm sure that all of us or most of us have heard the tales of Pharrell shopping music to Michael Jackson, and ended up giving those songs to Justin Timberlake.
Oh, yes. Yes.
Yeah. Justified was basically a Michael Jackson album produced by the Neptunes, but Justin Timberlake recorded them. The reason why Michael Jackson didn't take those songs is because when the Neptunes were sending him like some demos and beats that he had made, Michael Jackson's manager was like, fuck that. We don't want this shit. We want Super Thug.
No.
Yes. Yes. He wanted Super Thug type beats.
Wow. What if that happened? What if Michael Jackson went the Noreaga route at the end of his career? Dang.
Is that in the vault somewhere? Let's go dig up another Neverland Ranch and try to find that.
I don't want to go there.
No, I don't either. I was hoping one of you two would volunteer and bring it back for us.
What an interesting grandstand for MJ's manager to make. Like, no, we're gonna pass on Justified, an amazing, iconic pop album that we should cover at some point because you're going for because you want Super Thug, a legendary storied hip hop song. It's just funny to be like to pick your battles like that.
Right. And my thing is thinking about it is like, why didn't they just say, okay, we'll give him what he wants, and they make another like aggressive Super Thug type beat for Michael Jackson?
Nah, at that point of the Neptunes' career, they're moving more into like the alt and the alt pop world. I mean, obviously they went back to the hip. They were always, I guess, they always had one foot in the hip hop world, but at that time in their career, they were making just interesting rock and alternative that people just decided to rap or sing over, which is genius, and I love it. But it's an interesting thing to look. That's an insight that is painted by hindsight.
Ooh, you got
That's deep.
man.
That's deep.
All right, let's move on to the gateway drug. Dana, the gateway drug is when we pick out a song for someone to listen to who has never heard these albums, but it cannot be a radio single. It must be a deep cut. So I am exempt from picking Born to Run and 10th Avenue Freeze. Augie, what are you exempt from picking? Super Thug and Banned from TV?
Banned from TV and N.O.R.E. Those are the three singles from this, yeah.
What do you got for your gateway drug since we're on a N.O.R.E. bend right now?
So this one was kind of easy for me, even though this whole album bangs, like it bangs. I had so much fun listening to this in my car and just reliving times in high school and whatever. But you got to break it down to The Change. And The Change just had a super knocking beat. 50 Cent ended up recycling that beat and using it on a mixtape later. And then on the hook, it just had a fire hook where he says, www.N.O.R.E. If not, call me.
Oh, God, I missed the late 90s.
He had no idea what the internet was. He's like, you got to find me on the internet.
Like, HTTP, comma, backslash, www.
I wish you would have called out the full thing. That would have been hilarious.
Yeah, and it wasn't so. And that song was about him like abandoning the street life and trying to be like a good human being. And I think that's what his career trajected to. You know, he went from like Capone and Noreaga to N.O.R.E., who's this happy, lovable, I love you type of figure.
We love the glow up. It's probably good for his mental health as well. All right, so I'm torn between two songs. I love Meeting Across the River simply because the trumpet's going crazy throughout the entire song. It's essentially a giant call and response. Like Bruce sings and then the trumpet player just riffs something saucy and it's back and forth the entire song, and I love it. But I don't think that's quite accessible as just a jump off. I think it works better in the context of the album. So I think my gateway drug is insert drum roll here as I find my spot. Oh yeah, Backstreets. I think Backstreets is the one that you show people because that song is more rock adjacent and embodies the wall of sound philosophy we discussed previously. And the lyrics are top to bottom American mythology, you know, getting wasted in the heat and hiding on the back streets, sleeping in that old abandoned beach house, catching rides out to the outskirts. That's just, it sounds, yeah, dude. The more you think about Augie, it sounds like a song that Morgan Wallen would have wrote, and then he yelled the racial slur afterwards.
Never talk about Bruce Springsteen and Morgan Wallen in the same sentence again. I know where you live, Jordan. Okay.
I'm so sorry. That's my bad.
I got a question. Dana, did he get this right? Is that the gateway drug to this album?
Yeah, I was gonna say that one or Night, just because Night is kind of like a bit more like a poppy one that's kind of more accessible, but Max is definitely
you sound like a robot, dude.
And it's one that no, it's serious, but Backstreets. It's so poetic. It's so beautiful. It's one he doesn't play live very often, so it's almost kind of like a badge of honor if you've seen it live. It's kind of like, oh, that's when you know you've been to a lot of shows. You tell somebody that like, yo, yeah, I've heard Backstreets 4 times. Like, whoa, you have been to a lot of shows, you know. Wow. So
that's a flex.
Yeah, Backstreets. I think that's a solid call, Jordan, because that's one of his top 10 songs all time, in my opinion.
Okay,
well done, sir.
Thank you. I did enjoy it. I also want to bring up some WTF lyrics. Augie, do you have some? You want to do that right now, as opposed to One's Got to Go?
Yeah, let's talk about the WTF lyrics because there's a lot on this. And Dana, you got a chance to listen to the album N.O.R.E?
Yeah. Mm-hmm.
Okay, so you've run into a lot of these, and if there's one that strikes your interest or something that jumped out to you, please say it. I want you to interject. I'm gonna go ahead and lead this off. And this one is not necessarily WTF, but it just makes me, it's just the irony of this. from the song Head, he says, I used to never drink. Now I'm known to drink plenty. And this is from the man who now has a podcast called The Drink Champ. So at one point, this guy never drank, but now he drinks plenty.
Hey, man, you're allowed to change. I think I have more leeway for rappers saying ridiculous things for some reason. I don't know why. Because here's my WTF lyrics. It's from Born to Run. Bruce says, Wendy, let me in. I want to be your friend. I want to guard your dreams and visions. Just wrap your legs around these velvet rims and strap your hands around my engines. That's super horny, and it made me uncomfortable.
It's very horny, Bruce. And then he's talked about how he kind of cringes at that, and it's awkward. It's because you can picture a 23-year-old kid writing that. Now when you see 70-year-old Bruce Springsteen sing that, it's strap your legs around these velvet rims. It's just a little uncomfy. Yeah,
dude, Bruce was all about the prostate orgasm long before that was in the mainstream.
Is that a velvet rim? Is that what that is?
It's gotta be.
Oh my gosh! Because I paid attention to that line, but I kind of didn't think anything of it.
Dude.
Wow. Finger in the Bruce. All right.
Stop.
So let's talk about Super Thug though with wild lyrics. I don't know how many you have from this, but the intro line, he says, "We light a candle, run laps around the English Channel. The Neptune's got a Cocker Spaniel."
Bars. What you know about bars?
What the fuck you know about this real hip hop? First of all, let's break this down. Lighting a candle. He explained that as like, preparing himself and talking to the spirits and getting motivation from them. Running laps around the English Channel. If I could draw the map out for you, the English Channel is a body of water separating the United Kingdom from France.
Yes.
So if you could run laps from this, maybe you are around the English Channel, maybe you are a super thug. And that thought just popped in my head right now. Wow, that's actually brilliant.
Yeah, I like it. I like it. The Neptune's got a Cocker Spaniel also is a nice period to that rhyme scheme.
So apparently they brought a Cocker Spaniel to the studio. I think that from what I heard.
Had to have been it, yeah. Because where else would they have gotten that? Yeah, because I was not expecting the Cocker Spaniel to get dropped in the lyrics when I was listening to that song or that album at all. I was like, whoa, because I had a Cocker Spaniel growing up, so that kind of it piqued my. I was like, whoa, talking about my dog Cody.
Yeah, a Cocker Spaniel isn't really a hip hop dog, It's...
Yeah, they weren't your stereotypical hip hop dudes, and they really never were. And Noreaga remarked that Pharrell was wearing a choker, and he was just like, who wears a choker? What is going on?
That's skateboard culture. It's kind of like, what if there was a corgi reference on Get Rich or Die Trying? And 50's like, yeah, Scott Storch brought a corgi to the studio. All right. So the link up, it's where we draw as many comparisons as possible between these two albums. Augie, I hate to break it to you, but I know the punishment for this week. I spoke to Dana about it. So I think Dana has to judge and spill the beans now.
Okay, so the punishment, because I wanted to make sure it kind of fit with the motif and the vibe what you guys were going for. So, you guys know each other. We all three know each other from Go Radio. Augie, you host the morning show at Go 95.3. Jordan, you did work at Go 96.3. And of course, you did a little stuff on 95.3, but you're primarily 96, and Augie, you're primarily 95. So the loser of the link up needs to admit that the other channel was a superior Go channel and explain why.
Okay. All right. I'm going to leave, so I'm preparing my case.
And I promise, because I was 96.3, but I promise I will be unbiased. I'm not going to show any favoritism. I'm going to pick a winner that I think is the real legit winner.
This it's pretty easy for me, because if I lose, I'm like, yeah, 95.3 always had the way better ratings. That's just the end of it. All right. Augie, you started last week, so I will start this week. Dana, you set the parameters, okay? And it's on as you know, it's on the fly. The first is game over. So, you're drawing lines in the sand here. My first link: Jimmy Iovine, engineered on Born to Run. Jimmy Iovine produced on the N.O.R.E album Nothing. 2/3 of N.O.R.E is the Neptunes, who produced Super Thug.
Ding.
Yeah.
That was a ding. I like that.
Thank you.
Okay. That was kind of mine. I had a different Jimmy Iovine link.
Don't you dare plagiarize. Are you kidding me?
Yeah, I'm going to leave that alone.
You
All right.
hack into his Google Docs and find his information. You found his cheat sheet. You found his study sheet.
Well, mine had to do with Star Trek, the label. Jimmy Iovine.
Nice.
Jimmy Iovine started Interscope Records, and they later signed Star Trek, the label, which is Neptune's imprint, Interscope.
Are you going for that?
No, that I'm going to leave that alone. Unless you'll take that, Dana.
I feel like you already know in your heart that you can do better than that. So I want to feel it. I want to hear it.
Okay. All right. Here we go. So, Oye Mi Canto is a famous Noreaga song. And Oye Mi Canto is actually also a concert that was put on by the Gay Men's Chorus of Los Angeles, featured a poet who read at Obama's second inauguration. Obama is a noted Bruce Springsteen fan.
Ooh.
Ding, 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 ding. I'll take that.
Oye Mi Canto was the first N.O.R.E song I ever heard, by the way, Augie. This is my first exposure. Like what was that, 2003, 2004?
Yeah. It's good. That's a good vibe. I think that's a timeless track that you could play at any party.
Yes. It was a sizable hit, wasn't it?
Oh, yeah, definitely.
We discussed earlier the Noreaga reference to the English Channel, right? A channel is a river, like meeting across the river. A track off Born to Run.
Ding, ding, ding. But you're borderline.
Okay, because it's not creative. Is it too simple? What's the rationale here?
I'm going to take my response back, Gordon.
Okay, sorry.
Okay. So here's my link. A theme through, or at least a phrase that was uttered several times in Bruce Springsteen's Born to Run was jungle. Of course, you got the song Jungle Land. He refers to the jungle a lot. And the jungle is either the reference to Vietnam or to the city. City being New York City when people talk about this. Noreaga from the city of New York.
Ding, 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 ding. Okay, to you.
I was like, I like it, but it could be an air. Okay, here we go.
Am I being too lenient here? I'll buzz both of you right now.
I think
you both gotta say something nice about the other channel.
I think we're getting there. Let's see. I'm looking at my list like, oh boy, these are not. These are not.
Scraping the bottom here.
Yeah. Let's see. Oh God. One sec. I'm really nervous right now for some reason.
Oh, we should put a shot clock.
We should. Okay, here we go. Track 17 of N.O.R.E is Body in the Trunk. Born to Run features many references to cars.
Oh my God.
No!
Wow. I didn't think I was going to win this.
I thought that was a fundamentally sound link, but also I get it. It's pretty bottom of the barrel.
Wow.
Is the link technically true? Yes, the link is technically there, but as the creator of the link up, as the master of the link up, I have a high bar of excellence for you, Jordan, that did not even come close to clearing.
You can't, that's wild that you don't have a consistent strike zone, but I respect it. Okay, this is my concession that Go 95.3 was the better, more superior Go radio channel. Number one, I know that it was closer to actually making money than Go 96.3. Go 95.3 also was a good 10 places higher in the ratings at any given moment. The best. Let's look at the actual spinning DJs on Go 95.3. Lizzo's DJ, Wiz Khalifa's DJ. The best DJ on Go 96.3 was me, who DJs weddings sometimes. Not the same. Go 96.3 had to play Imagine Dragons all the time.
I'm throwing the towel. It's done.
There we go. That's my concession.
Wow.
Well done, boys. Well done.
Good job. I was really scared because I only had two things, and you said my first thing as your first thing.
What, the making money?
No, the Iovine thing.
Oh yeah.
Oh, the links. Oh, I thought you were talking about like what you would say about 96.3 had you lost. I see what you mean. Yeah.
Oh yeah.
You were not on any emails apparently.
I was on all the emails. I knew all of that stuff. Okay. All right. Good. I'm glad. I'm happy.
All right, let's move on to In Summation, where we just talk about these albums. We kind of a nice little Dana, before we hopped on. Well, we began with this, the interrogation of the American dream and the American experience on both albums. What else do we notice about these albums? I think they both are characterized a moment in time in their respective genres. I think like the piano driven rock, very Bob Seger-esque, is prominent on Bruce Springsteen. I think the production on N.O.R.E is a big 98 to 2002. Like it was like centered hip hop's last stand before crunk music. Mm-hmm. They're both time capsules for their genre. What else we got?
But we talked about the themes. We talked about the underdog theme.
Oh yeah.
So here I got something. I just want to ask this, because here's something else that I read about the song Backstreets. Actually, mm-hmm. There's a rumor among fans or non-fans that Bruce Springsteen might have had a boyfriend at some time.
Yeah, the name Terry in the song is gender ambiguous intentionally, and he's never really talked about if Terry is a female, if Terry's a male friend that he had a falling out with in the song, or if Terry's some type of boyfriend. They never really says, kind of up to the listener. But yeah, no, that is a very popular theory. The name Terry could be male, could be female, could be my friend, could be special friend, as you will. So yeah, no, that's definitely a big topic when it comes to that song. In the nerdy message boards that I post on, yes, Bruce Springsteen, there's a message board called Backstreets.com, because when it comes to Bruce Springsteen's fan base, they don't usually do message boards still.
Some people were saying that Terry, he had an assistant named Terry at some time, and the Terry that he's referring to might be this male Terry. Also, I just have to bring this up. The song's called Backstreets, and that's usually what happens with boyfriends is they use the backstreet.
Okay, calm down. That's a reach. What? I've never heard that. I've never heard backstreet as a term for that.
Hey,
I don't know what dictionary you're looking at, Augie, but I've never seen that one either.
Yeah, when you use the backstreets, you use the backstreets. You know what I'm saying? Nothing wrong with that.
But I do like the idea of using it.
I just never heard to as that.
Yeah. I do like the idea of Bruce using a gender. I do like the idea of just artists in general using gender neutral names in that regard. I also think it's super weak that when an artist covers a song, when they switch the pronouns, I think that's so stupid.
Mm-hmm.
Like when I'm singing Call Me Maybe, I don't go, and all the other girls try to chase me. No, I'm saying, and all the other boys. I say it just like Carly Rae Jepsen. I'm going to say it.
That's fine.
When I'm saying, when I sing Lizzo's Boys.
I agree. You gotta keep it that way. Especially if they're doing karaoke and you're belting that one out of the Vegas lounge. You got to keep it the same.
Yeah. And all the, I'm all about it.
I just want to say that, as far as like Noriega's album, N.O.R.E, this man was he was definitely an underdog when he made this, not just coming from where he came from, but also in the music industry. I think that's another tie, because you mentioned that this was like Bruce Springsteen's final stand to reach mainstream popularity. This was kind of Noriega's stand too, to reach popularity, because people knew him as one half of Capone and Noriega. Capone goes to jail. He's putting out an album, and now he's like, okay, I got to make this album a 10, because like other than that, I don't have a career. So he took risks. He took risks on a 17-year-old Swiss Beats and used that beat that he made with the amazing horns for Born to Run And the only other Swiss Beats song out at that point was the Rough Riders anthem, which only came out a couple of months before that.
Which, I mean, still, like, if you heard, let me get that producer. If you heard the Rough Riders anthem beat, like, okay, call him. Hit me on www.swissbeats.com or call me.
Yo, and he took a risk on the Neptunes. The Neptunes only had 2 production credits at that point. One was SWV's Use Your Heart.
Mm-hmm.
They were making R&B at the time. And then the other song was The Maces, Why You Over There Looking at Me, which wasn't supposed to even be a rap record. He had made that for Belle Biv DeVoe, and they turned that down.
These people got to stop turning down Pharrell beats, even when they're young. I don't get it. Whatever. Go on. Sorry.
And so the Neptunes were basically like an R&B production duo, and they were like, we want to make rap, and so they made some beats for Noreaga, and Noreaga is like, first of all, this slaps, but second of all, I'm gonna follow your direction, Pharrell and Chad, because like you guys know what you're doing, and a lot of artists that were, you know, at his point in the career would have been like, you know what? No, fuck that. I'm not doing this. Like I'm the star here. You're not the star. Like,
he's always been a visionary. Mm-hmm. Yeah, he does. And like he was early on the podcast game as well with Drink Champs. Like he had that established brand before everyone had a podcast, including us. So I think it's very harmonious to how he's always conducted his career in a smart way, open to feedback and take risks that were smart, and he would take his time to deliver on them. Shout out Noreaga.
Shout out Noreaga.
Do you think Noreaga's ever heard Born to Run and vice versa? Do you think they've ever listened to each other's albums?
I don't think Bruce has heard any N.O.R.E. I think N.O.R.E's heard Born to Run in passing. Has it been on a commercial? I feel like it's been on a commercial.
He doesn't really put too much of his music on commercials, even movies, really. So now, but I mean, I feel like whether you know it or not, he's probably heard it at some point in his life, you know, or it's been on, you know, in passing at very least, I'm sure. Like,
I can't tell you a time I've driven past a Hardee's, but I know I have. It's like one of those situations.
You know what? Though
that was a great connection. That was a great
Thank
link you just made there.
Being from New York, though, I think that, you know, we made a reference earlier to this being like East Coast country music and East Coast folk music. I think that the exception might be there, that people in New York, you just kind of like, that's just what you grew up listening to.
I'm going to tweet him right now. I'm going to tweet the Drink Champs account and see if, have you heard Bruce Springsteen's Born to Run?
Bet for us.
Here I go. Sending it now.
What do you say?
I'm saying at Noreaga. Settle debate. Have you heard Bruce Springsteen's Born to Run?
He hope he hits you back.
Sent. Okay, we'll see. We'll hold. Or I'm holding my breath.
I'm sure he'll interrupt his Saturday to get back to you immediately.
I hope he does. Dana, where can people find you if they want to follow your journey? Where should they make WesselMania.com their homepage? Give us all the deets.
WesselMania.com. You can check me there, or I tweet pretty much around any spare thought I have in my head, I just fire it on the internet. So if you like your feed to be bombarded with tweets about Wings and Fast and Furious and Bruce Springsteen, follow me at Dana Wessel.
The big three, the holy trinity.
Dana,
by following me, you will always know when there's a Nick Cage movie on TNT. I promise you that.
I gotta honor the brilliance of WesselMania.com. I just think that's a brilliant thing. So cheers to you for that.
Thank
That's
you,
amazing.
dude. Appreciate it, Augie. Appreciate it. It's great chatting with you boys. It's great to see your faces on the screen. I miss seeing you guys in real life and hanging out and doing cool stuff together, guys. I'm glad you guys are doing this podcast. It's awesome, and I'm honored to have been a part of one of the maiden voyages of this endeavor.
It is quite nostalgic. I apprate it. It's been really fun. Augie, what's our next episode?
We were talking about doing Nirvana in utero against the Baby on Baby. What do you think?
Yes. Let's do the Baby Nirvana next week, and then let's do Gambino in the 1975 next week.
Let's go.
We love you all dearly. Make sure you tell your friends and subscribe at the Link Up Listening Party, wherever you get your podcast. We are the Link Up LP on social media as well. Augie 5000 is at Augie 5000. I am at Tornado Jally, Jally. If you want to hear sad Timberwolves opinions, you follow me. If you want to.
Poor Ricky Rubio, man. Oh,
I don't want to talk about it.
God.
Don't you dare bring that up right now. I don't want to talk about Ricky. I'm still holding out hope. We got to fire the coach, though.
Yeah, get him the fuck out of here. Before we exit, I just want to acknowledge me losing the link up last week and my Zumba class.
Ah, yes.
That is going to happen. I need to get some tights. I didn't want to rush it. I had kind of a busy week and I couldn't do it. I didn't want to do a rush job. So we're gonna do a proper Zumba live, probably right here on this channel on Twitch on at the Link Up LP.
I like it. We love you all dearly. Goodbye.
Peace.